Well, this source close to A'ja Wilson is claiming they offered A'ja Wilson more money than Caitlin Clark to play in this league.
If you challenge the queen, you better not miss. But what happens when the queen targets the rookie and just looks completely foolish instead? What happens when the league's biggest superstar tries to put the new golden child in her place, only for it to backfire instantly? Welcome back to the Clark Heat channel, everyone. Today, we are diving into the most explosive, petty drama in women's basketball right now. We are talking A'ja Wilson versus Caitlin Clark. For months, the media tried to spin this as just friendly competition. They claimed the veteran players were simply welcoming Caitlin to the professional league. But let's be real here. We all saw what happened. We watched the hard fouls and the clear shade in those press conferences. Most of all, we witnessed the moment A'ja Wilson tried to humiliate Caitlin Clark, only to expose her own deep insecurity to the world. This story goes way beyond basketball. It is about power, money, and a massive changing of the guard that some veterans simply refuse to accept. When A'ja Wilson, the two-time MVP champion and face of the Las Vegas Aces, decided to take a shot at Caitlin Clark, she thought she was asserting dominance. She wanted to remind everyone whose court this actually is, but the immediate backlash from fans, combined with Caitlin's brilliant play on the court, served up some serious instant karma. Today, we are breaking down exactly how this plan backfired and why A'ja Wilson might have lost the war before it even truly began. Let's set the stage, because context is key here. A'ja Wilson has been the gold standard for years. She is undeniable, with a resume that speaks for itself. But then in walks Caitlin Clark, a rookie who had not played a single professional minute, and she was already selling out arenas that A'ja Wilson could not fill in 5 years. She signed a $28 million shoe deal with Nike, the biggest in history, before A'ja even got her own signature sneaker announced. You think that did not sting? You think A'ja Wilson, watching a 22-year-old rookie from Iowa get the red carpet treatment, was not feeling some type of way? Of course she was. And that jealousy, that deep resentment finally bubbled over, starting with subtle digs and complaints on social media about charter flights and special treatment. It went further with comments about race, where A'ja implied Caitlin was only popular because she is white, completely ignoring her ability to pull up from the logo and drop 40 points a game. But the real plan to humiliate Caitlin happened right on the court, backed by a narrative the Aces tried to push. The strategy was simple: bully the rookie, make her look weak, expose her defense, and physically dominate her. A'ja Wilson and her squad wanted to welcome her to the big leagues by trapping her and ruining her stats just to claim she was nothing but overhyped media noise. They desperately wanted a highlight reel of Caitlin Clark struggling against a true league superstar. A'ja wanted that viral clip where she blocks Caitlin or scores right over her, staring her down to show the world there are levels to this basketball game. But here is exactly where it backfired, and it backfired beautifully. Instead of looking like dominant veterans teaching a lesson, A'ja and her team just looked like bullies, completely obsessed with a single rookie. The aggression was way too high, and the focus was too intense. It did not look like basketball anymore. It looked personal, and fans saw right through it. When you are the reigning MVP and the best player alive, you do not have to try that hard to prove a point against a rookie. By trying so desperately to embarrass Caitlin, A'ja Wilson actually elevated her status. She proved to the world that Caitlin Clark is a legitimate threat. You do not send double teams and hard fouls at a nobody. You do that to a killer. A'ja basically validated Caitlin's status by treating her like the ultimate threat. And let's look at the financial backfire here, because this is where things get hilarious. A'ja thought that by tearing down Caitlin's hype, she would remind Nike and major sponsors that she is the real asset. She assumed outplaying the rookie would make fans switch sides. But the exact opposite happened, as the relentless attacks only made Caitlin's massive fan base even stronger. It built a classic Caitlin against the world storyline that is pure marketing gold. Every single time A'ja or another veteran throws shade, Caitlin's jersey sales spike. Every time they try to haze her, television ratings soar because everyone wants to see if the rookie can survive. A'ja Wilson tried to gatekeep women's basketball, but she basically handed Caitlin the keys to the castle. Just look at the optics. You have A'ja Wilson, an established legend, looking bitter and pressed, while Caitlin Clark quietly takes the hits, gets back up, and says absolutely nothing. She is not trash talking in the media or crying on Twitter. She is just playing. And that stoic refusal to engage in the drama is driving A'ja Wilson crazy. It is the ultimate power move. By refusing to react to A'ja's attempts to embarrass her, Caitlin is essentially saying, I am here to play basketball. You are just here to play games. One specific moment perfectly highlights how this plan fell apart. We all remember the massive anticipation before their first matchup, the Aces versus the Fever. The atmosphere was electric. A'ja Wilson came out hyper-aggressive, trying to block every shot and score every time she touched the ball. And yes, A'ja put up big numbers. She is a phenomenal player, and nobody denies that. The story was not about A'ja dominating. It was about why the Aces were playing like it was Game 7 of the WNBA Finals against a lottery team. They looked desperate. Yet, right in the middle of all that pressure, Caitlin Clark drained those signature step-back threes. She threaded the needle with impossible passes, and when the dust settled, the talk was not about A'ja's greatness, it was all about the hate. It was about raw jealousy. A'ja Wilson wanted the headlines to scream that she schooled the rookie. Instead, everyone was asking why WNBA veterans are so insecure around Caitlin Clark. It is a complete public relations disaster. It backfired in a massive way. A'ja Wilson, who spent years crafting a reputation of positivity and leadership, suddenly looked like the villain of her own story. Let's look closer at the signature shoe deal, because you simply cannot separate the cash from the resentment. When news broke that Caitlin was getting $28 million for a signature shoe right away, A'ja's reaction spoke volumes. She posted tweets and liked shady comments, making it obvious she felt disrespected. And honestly, she is right. She should have had her own shoe line years ago. She is a multi-time champion. But instead of taking her anger out on Nike or the system, she directed all that negative energy at Caitlin. She tried to paint Caitlin as the poster child of white privilege in basketball, attempting to humiliate her by claiming she never earned the hype. But that backfired. When you study the actual numbers, ticket sales, TV ratings, and merchandise, Caitlin Clark is bringing in more revenue in 3 months than most athletes generate in their entire careers. Facts do not care about feelings. By targeting Caitlin's endorsement, A'ja only highlighted how she simply does not move the needle the same way. It triggered a direct comparison where A'ja Wilson clearly loses when it comes to business and marketability. It forced people to look at the metrics and realize that Caitlin is actually wildly underpaid for the value she generates. A'ja tried to frame Caitlin as some industry plant, but instead, she highlighted how poorly the WNBA marketed its own superstars over the last decade. And what about the fans? The biggest source of speculation has been whether Caitlin Clark would even step onto the court. There were even rumors that the league might offer her an equity stake. Naturally, the internet went completely wild over this, especially because another superstar player who also wears number 22 and who people have been heavily speculating about is A'ja Wilson. Here is the dangerous part for A'ja. Sure, the WNBA has a loyal core fan base, but Caitlin Clark is drawing in millions of fresh eyes. These new fans do not care about history or league politics. They only see a phenomenal rookie getting targeted by bitter veterans. A'ja Wilson risks alienating the very audience that is finally paying their salaries. When you try to humiliate the fan favorite, you quickly become public enemy number one. Social media was flooded with comments saying they used to love A'ja, but this behavior is just ugly. People wondered why she was acting like a high school bully. That kind of brand damage is hard to fix. The absolute irony is, if A'ja Wilson had just put her arm around Caitlin Clark, welcomed her, and said, let us grow this league together, Aja would be celebrated as the ultimate hero. She would be the beloved queen guiding the next generation, selling even more sneakers because a rising tide lifts all boats. Instead, she chose conflict. She chose to try and overshadow her. Now, she looks like the old guard, desperately clutching to power as it slips through her fingers. We also must address the aggressive defensive scheme meant to embarrass her. The Aces strategy was full court pressure on Caitlin. Picking her up 90 feet out, they wanted to force turnovers and make her ball handling look sloppy. And sure, Caitlin committed turnovers. She is a rookie point guard on a struggling roster. But every single time she broke the press, split the defense, found an open teammate, or launched a shot from 30 feet out, it made the Aces' intensity look ridiculous. It felt like complete overkill. It was like bringing a tank to a knife fight, yet somehow still getting cut. When you try that hard to stop one player, and she still drops 15 or 20 points with 7 assists, you have not embarrassed her. You only validated her. Plus, look at the locker room chemistry across the league. Other players see this backfire too. Rivals are starting to realize that the Caitlin Clark hate train is a horrible look, and Aja Wilson is steering it. If the public narrative shifts and fans start viewing veterans as bitter, it will end up hurting everyone's pockets. With massive new television rights deals coming up, the overall valuation of the WNBA is skyrocketing because of the Caitlin Clark effect. By trying to embarrass this cash cow, Aja Wilson is basically biting the hand that is about to feed her a lucrative max contract. It is short-sighted, highly emotional, and ultimately bad business. Caitlin Clark's response has been a masterclass in killing them with kindness and destroying them with success. She always praises Aja in interviews, calling her an incredible player. She respects the game, and that sharp contrast makes Aja's aggression look completely unprovoked and petty. It paints a picture of a one-sided rivalry where the superstar veteran is just shadow boxing a ghost. Caitlin is living rent-free inside their heads without paying a single dime. So, where do we go from here? The mission to embarrass Caitlin Clark has failed. The brutal welcome to the WNBA moments are over, and yet she is still standing. She is still starting. She is still selling out massive arenas. The narrative changed from "Can Caitlin survive?" to "Why won't the vets let her breathe?" Aja Wilson needs to pivot. She has to realize this drama backfired and completely shift her game plan. Because right now, every single eye roll, every shady social media post chips away at the massive respect she worked so hard to build over the years. Fact is, the torch is being passed, whether Aja Wilson likes it or not. This doesn't mean Aja is suddenly washed. She is still an MVP, but she is no longer the main attraction. And trying to humiliate the rising star doesn't put you back in the spotlight. It just turns you into the villain. And in sports, the bad guy usually loses. Aja Wilson tried to control the court of public opinion. She tried to play a game of petty humiliation, and she lost. Instantly, the fans rallied behind the rookie. The data backed up the kid, and the actual game of basketball remained unchanged. At the end of the day, the ball goes in the hoop. As long as Caitlin Clark keeps draining deep threes from halfway across the court, no amount of shade, physical fouls, or veteran pettiness can slow down what is coming. What do you think? Did Aja Wilson cross the line? Is she truly jealous of all the massive attention Caitlin Clark is receiving? Or is this just raw competitive drive that the sports media is blowing way out of proportion? Let me know. Is Caitlin Clark successfully surviving this brutal hazing, or has Aja Wilson actually exposed her? Tell me in the comments. If you enjoyed this breakdown of the drama, smash that like button, subscribe to the Clark Heat channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update on this WNBA war. This is only the start. The playoffs are approaching, and if these two powerhouses meet, expect absolute fireworks on the court. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.